Okay, I'm going to get us going. Since we have a lot of folks here, welcome to the agency admin webinar for October. We're happy to have you here. Wish we could see all your faces, but we know you're there. So I'm going to introduce our team. You can see everybody's videos on, so you can see who's with us. But I'll start. My name is Hillary Evans, and I work both with the HMIS team and the 211 team here at Crisis Response Network.
Hi, I'm Gloria Vercruzen, and I am the manager for the HMIS team.
My name is Thaddeus Gassi. I'm one of the program specialists at the HMIS lead team at Crisis Response Network.
My name is Sam Davis. I'm the HMIS business analyst.
My name is Michael. I am a program specialist at HMIS.
Yeah, hi, I'm Stephanie Grader. I'm the customer support rep in HMIS.
I'm Curtis Hahn, and I'm also one of the program specialists with HMIS.
Thank you. So that's all of us. And as you can see, if you haven't been here more recently, the team's growing, which is exciting. So on today's agenda, this training today will be relevant for both Maricopa and Balance of State, as we will be talking through the guidance about entering data for a client's prior living situation and instructions on how to run a new version of the new entry exit report. So to get us going, I'm going to turn it over to Glory, who's going to go over some information about the purpose of our webinars.
Okay, so to start us off for today's webinar, I want to start with what our general purpose is. I think we've got a lot of new agencies that have been onboarded, and really helpful for us to just revisit here that the purpose that we make this required, but that on our side we are providing consistent guidance to primary points of contact about HMIS workflow changes, policies, data entry, and reporting, so you all are able to instruct your teams and maintain the integrity of the homelessness data system. So we do this and want to support you in these different ways that are listed here by communicating changes to the system or workflows, providing ongoing training on the HMIS software, reviewing in-system reporting functionality, reviewing and enforcing the HMIS data quality, HMIS security, and HMIS privacy plans, and then discussing how HMIS data is used in the community. Wanted to touch base here and also provide just an important note that the training portions of the webinar, that not every segment every month will be relevant to every program and agency that is on that's on the call. We do try to provide trainings that apply to the largest majority of the group, and we'll send out agendas ahead of time and be sure to let you know within the webinar which ones are going to be relevant for which program types. But if you ever have any questions about whether it's relevant for you, for your specific agency program, please send us a message on the help desk or send in a quick Q&A on within the agency admin webinar, and we'll be able to answer your questions. So to go through some general webinar reminders, please remember to share what you learned with any relevant staff at your agency. During this webinar, in order to ask questions, you're going to see at the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A function. Common questions are going to be answered live. The answers will be aggregated and shared at a later date. And any longer questions or any very detailed questions that are specific, we'll be sure to send you a follow-up email after the webinar. Please keep in mind that your agency's attendance is required, but we always make a recording that is available on a later date. We will email you the video links by the following Monday. So for today's webinar, this means that that will be sent out by November 2nd. Any users who are not in attendance today have until Friday, November 6th in order to complete that video and quiz. And with that, I'm going to pass the mic over to Thaddeus.
All right, everyone. So today's first instructional topic, and this is for Maricopa and Donaldson State both, and it's also for every single project type. This is a revisit of the prior living situation fields that, among other things, helps determine whether or not a client would be classified as experiencing chronic homelessness. This is because we've been noticing a lot of data quality concerns across some agencies regarding prior living situation accuracy. So determining prior living situation is actually made up of a series of questions. It's essentially a conversation. So we wanted to spend a few minutes on revisiting that discussion. If you decide that you want any of your staff to get their eyes and ears on what I'm about to say, just know that what I'm going over is the same instruction that is now on the recently updated new user training video. So anyone can either wait a week to review this webinar recording, or they can immediately revisit the online new user training videos. And the link to that is on our support website, hmisaz.org, under, it's the generic introduction video training. Before I log into HMIS to show the fields I'm talking about, I wanted to point out that third bullet especially, that the answers to these fields must reflect the situation as of project start date rather than at the time of data collection. So let me now switch to HMIS. We're going to pull up the client. Quick illustration. Now I've got the generic UDE pulled up, which stands for the Universal Data Elements. I'm going to scroll down to the section that determines chronicity, the client prior residence section. The series of questions are about this person's history of homelessness. For this section, your screen might appear differently than what is displayed now. It just depends on what kind of situation you're describing for this client. So for example, we're looking at one of the ways it would show up for rapid rehousing or permanent housing or homelessness prevention. But if I change the prior living situation to something that's literally homeless, like place not meant for habitation, it will pop out a few extra answers on the screen. And by the way, we're looking at a dummy client. This is Tess Testerson, so there's nothing here that's specifically sacred special information. What we'd like to reinforce about this part of the assessment is that these answers are best gathered through a conversation. Asking the questions as they literally appear here, as I'm showcasing, can lead to some confusion for the client. So as seen on the assessment here, they appear as basic questions, but coming up, I'm going to display a slide showing these questions alongside what you're ultimately trying to uncover in the larger conversation. So I'm going to pull back up the slideshow right here. Before I move to that, a disclaimer that not all projects are able to have conversations with every client. One size does not fit all. Different project types have different realities. High volume shelters may need to ask people quickly to ballpark responses. And other projects are able to have complex intakes, letting staff sit with clients for a clearer picture. For example, permanent supportive housing projects with documentation requirements are expected to spend more time with clients' HMIS records and files, and there is an expectation for these conversations to happen in full. So this next slide illustrates the actual questions from the UDE on the left, and on the right, an explanation of what a conversation should be uncovering. We are not saying this is the script for how you should word this conversation, because it could look different for each person and each project. This is just meant to reinforce what you're trying to uncover so you can answer these fields in HMIS. So the first field asks, what is the homelessness primary reason? And your conversation should be ultimately uncovering whether the client is experiencing homelessness at this time, and if so, what caused this current episode. For the second one, prior living situation, you're trying to uncover what was your last living situation immediately prior to today's start date. For location of prior residence, you're trying to uncover which city or county was that situation located in. For length of stay in previous place, you're trying to uncover how long were they in that situation. For approximate date homelessness started, here is where you really wanted to have a conversation whenever possible. Because if the client is currently homeless, you're trying to figure out, when did this current episode of homelessness begin? And that conversation might include informing the client that for data purposes, HUD is interested in counting how many specific episodes of homelessness they've experienced in the past 3 years from today. And the way they separate one episode from another is based on what HUD considers to be breaks in periods of homelessness. And the breaks are defined in the hover text of the HMIS assessments. And also I'm going to be showing them on the next slide. So then question 6, you come to the question of, regardless of where they stayed last night, what's the number of times, what's the number of episodes that they were homeless in the past 3 years? And so the conversation should uncover the episodes by identifying the breaks between those episodes. And then finally, what's the total number of months spent homeless in the past 3 years? So that conversation should also be providing a total count of the months within the past 3 years among those discrete episodes of homelessness. So after uncovering these items and up to these 7 fields, staff are able to fill in the fields on the UDE correctly. This is that last slide I mentioned a bit ago. Some reminders when staff fill out these fields on the UDE. A break is 90 days or more in an institutional setting. And also a break is 7 nights or more in a transitional or permanent housing situation. And I've highlighted how within the UDE, when you pop open the box for prior living situation, you get this pick list that appears, and it's broken into homeless situations, institutional situations in that orangey yellow color, and then temporary and permanent housing situations in the purple color. And I added the colors, by the way. You're not going to see those colors on the pick list, of course. So the way that they break those episodes of homelessness is based on any one of those kinds of interruptions for 90 days or more for institutional, or 7 nights or more in transitional or permanent. And the final reminder for this is that the prior living situation fields must always be reviewed upon project entry. So if you happen to inherit a client who already had records recorded by a different project, you need to always be sure that you're updating the prior living situation question, because it's asking, upon your new project entry, what was your prior living situation? So with that said, let's go ahead and see if there were any questions at this time. I don't see any in the Q&A box. I see a number in the chat though.
There is a question in the chat. It was a request to have handouts of this training.
Oh, certainly, yeah. I figured there'd be some questions about these kind of things. These could be some good things to print out and leave for your staff if you're concerned about their data accuracy.
And the best way for people to access this information after the training would be?
I'll go ahead and, when I send the follow-up email, I'll attach these images from the slideshow. And also people can review the recorded video on YouTube if they want that too.
Great. And so we have one other question in the question and answer box. So does UDE assessments apply to HP as it is grayed out when I go there?
So like the example that I had showed, I'll just pull that one back up again. That's a good question. New share, back to the UDE. So this was a homeless prevention example I gave. And most of the time when you're serving someone through homeless prevention, that means that their prior living situation is not literal homelessness. So instead it might be one of these down here, temporary or permanent housing situations, like maybe they're staying or living in a friend's room, or they're renting something. Let's pick the rental one here. And you can see that it made some of the questions disappear. That's because if I scroll back up to the top here, the UDE that's meant for permanent supportive housing, rapid rehousing, transitional housing, supportive services only, or homelessness prevention. This version of the UDE has what's called conditional logic, where depending on the answer you give, it won't even give you some of the other fields. And so if it turns out their prior living situation wasn't literal homelessness, you might not have those other fields appearing. So it kind of all goes together as far as what are these answers and will it show the rest of the questions below?
There's a follow-up question to that. from Maryland, wouldn't you also put homeless reason as client not homeless?
If that was the case, then yes. There's one of the pick list options for homelessness primary reason is client not homeless. You're literally saying at the start of their being served by our homelessness prevention program, they weren't literally homeless yet, and their prior living situation, like sometimes people will ask, where did you sleep last night? And that can be a useful way to ask it. That's not the only way to ask it though. But if you ask them, where did you sleep last night? And they were renting their own place still, then you could put that as your answer for prior living situation.
Great, and I think that's all we have for now if you want to keep going.
All right, let me go back to sharing this again, and we will move on to the next topic. If you have any other questions, submit those into the Q&A and we'll get back to those as much as we can.
Okay, so there used to be a useful report in Service Point, which was an entry-exit report. A lot of it wasn't very useful, but a lot of agencies and users use the very top portion to get a count of households who were entering and leaving the programs. Our vendor recently, I think maybe it was at the end of September or beginning of October, I forget the exact date, decided to do away with that report. And we heard an immediate outcry across the board of people wanting this report back stat. So it was very obviously important that we get something similar to this. Unfortunately, we can't bring back that same report, canned report, so we had to replicate it in ART. So as part of the training, it's called the entry-exit household counts. We'll just go over some general information, and then I'll review where it is within ART and go over the report itself. So this does replace the retired entry-exit canned report, and it does the same thing. It does count clients as well as households who are both entering and leaving the project within the time frame. An important thing to know is that this particular report provides an estimate for household totals in the reporting period. So it'll be extremely accurate for single projects or for shorter timeframes. But if you are happening to run this for example, 15 providers over the course of 1 or 2 years, the report will still have excellent estimates, but they won't be exactly accurate to federal specifications. Now, if that is something that you need, you can reach out to the HMIS help desk and we can provide a report that is more accurate over that length of time and those many providers at once. But for the vast majority of cases, this will be very accurate towards any kind of report over a course of a month or a couple of months or just a couple providers. But when you're getting to 2+ years and 15 providers at once in a reporting group, and it needs to be spot on to federal specifications, you can reach out to the help desk and we can kind of navigate and we can produce that with you without a problem. As I said, this one is no longer one of those canned reports, which is easily available and accessible. This will be more difficult for some users in Balanced Estate, unfortunately, because not all users in Balanced Estate have an ART license. But for the Maricopa side, everyone will be able to access this. It is located in the ART data quality folder on both Maricopa and the Balanced Estate sites. It's open and available right now. And we'll actually go and navigate that and show what that looks like in ART, just so we're very familiar with where to find that. Right now, in terms of next steps, this is a standalone report. So it's very similar to the canned report where it just shows a summary table and some client details. The ultimate goal is to actually combine this with the UDE demographics report on both sites. That way you can have a summary table in addition to all the client demographics. We haven't done that at this point. We figured the expediency of getting this data out as quickly as possible was more important than getting the full version of the UDE demographics report updated, just because of the outcry we've heard about this particular report. So if you can go to the next slide. So this is a summary table of what we're looking at here. So it's broken down a little slightly differently. So the top, some of the columns are very similar, and we have a couple of additional options, which gives you the leverage to decide how you want to categorize, for example, a household with adults only or a household with children only. I know not all funders use the exact consistent definitions, so they'll give you some ability to leverage that. So would it be possible for me to go ahead and share my screen so we can navigate to the report? Okay, thank you. Okay. So I'm currently on the Maricopa side, but this is going to be the same process for the Balanced Estate side. As I said, both reports are up there and running. So we'll connect to ART. If you're in balance of state, you may have to request, if you don't have one yourself, an agency admin or somebody else with an ART license to run this report. It'll be in public folder, and it'll be in the data quality reports. I think in the balance of state side, it might just be called data quality. It'll be data quality reports, and the report itself is called the entry exit household counts. So we'll click the magnifying glass here, and you have a few options when scheduling this. Now you may run this with a reporting group or a single or multiple providers. So both are optional prompts, so you can select whichever one you prefer. I'll just go ahead and select this here for reporting group, and we would just fill out the prompts as normal. So the prompts should be fairly similar to what you are familiar with in the canned report itself. We'll wait patiently while it loads. Perfect. Submit, and then you'll go ahead and select your dates. So it'll be very similar guidance. Let's say we just want to run it for the month of September, since that has been a full month. We'll put our end date as we expect. It is in ART, so we will do end date plus 1 day. I know in Service Point, the canned reports, if you were doing September, you'd do September 1st to September 30th. As it is now in ART, we're going to do that plus 1 day as indicated in the prompt right here. So, and we'll use the same effective date as well. And then we'll just go ahead and run that, and we'll name it whatever clever way we like, so we know exactly what we're reporting on. This report does take at max 2 minutes to run if it's an extremely large group of providers you're running on, but we still won't go ahead and do that because I'm impatient. So we have a different report already pulled up here. So we'll share that. And are we able to see, just one of the panelists can give me a thumbs up if you can see the Excel file? Sweet. All right. So this is what we have here. So we have the total count on the first day entering. So clients who are entering the project during the time period, leavers, those leaving the project in the time period, and stayers, those still active on the last day. The categories we have is the count of total clients. So adult, child, family households, whatever it is. This is the count of total clients. So for this particular reporting group, there was nearly 7,000 clients who were served over the time period. 1,200 were in the first day, 5,400 entered in the time frame, 4,900 left in the time frame, and as of the report end date, there were still 1,700 people involved. The next series of tables we have here is for families. So this first row, number 4, is the count of family households. So this is the number of households that include both children and adults within the household. So this isn't the number of clients, this is just literally a count of the households. But we can see exactly, of the 765 households, for example, we see there was 1,041 adults served and 1,712 children served. From there, we have some additional information. So we have a count of single adults. So those are adults who are on projects by themselves who are served, as well as single children. If your project doesn't serve single children, it very well could be a data entry error, or the children were not exited with the adult family members. But we have that, so you might identify some data entry errors for these columns if you're not a RIE program or serving youth under 18 specifically. And then we also have the count of adults and adult-only households. So this is couples, married couples, family members who are all over 18 years of age, and the count of children and child-only households. That's a household with multiple people who are all under 18 years of age. Again, this could frequently be a data quality or a data entry error, but it's nice to have this breakdown so you can kind of identify where that might be. But this, for example, could be a 17-year-old with a 10-year-old sibling or something of that sort. The definition, so this is a summary tab. We have the details for the clients, which is just the client IDs as well as their household classification and whether an adult or a child according to the report. So you could definitely do some auditing there. As I said, we don't have a very strong suite of demographic information at this point, but the ultimate goal is to actually push this with the UDE demographics report. And that way we can have a more robust report that'll provide a lot more information. So that is coming down the pipeline, but we wanted to get this information out as quickly as we could. Now, I know there are a lot of definitions on this report. So we have the additional information tab. You'll notice in a lot of reports, especially custom reports, but this will give you the prompts that you used. It also provides all the definitions within the report. So we have the definitions of what family households mean, what single children means. We also have definitions for what clients in the first day is, entering, leavers and stayers, and so forth. Now, of course, if any of these definitions are unclear, and we definitely get a lot of feedback from the community that we don't like this phrasing or it's confusing, it is a report we can modify and change. So we're happy to go ahead and make this more concise and more clear as possible. That is the entry exit report and how it functions. And so I'm going to pause and see if there's any kind of questions or concerns, and then we can go and answer those as soon as we can. So.
Just a lot of approval of this new report you created, Sam.
we're all very happy to have it. So
yeah, so thanks for your hard work on that.
Okay, then I will stop my sharing.
Now, Sam, to be clear, you're saying that in time, the UDE demographics report will be merged with this one, and they'll both have the combination of the two reports on them? Is that what you're saying?
It'll just be one final report. So ultimately it'll be the UDE demographics report, but one tab will be the household counts and the summaries as we're just looking at.
Okay, that's terrific. All right, let me pull back up our slideshow. I think we're on the last goodbye here.
Well, thank you for joining us today. Before you log off, we do want your feedback. Please answer the 4-question survey in the next 30 minutes. Please expect an email with a link to the survey from SurveyMonkey.
Thank you so much, everyone, for attending, and we appreciate your time.
Again, if your question was not answered, submit a ticket to the help desk. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.